Someone is crazy about you, but this relationship is forbidden. And this means two things you must understand. Take a breath before you continue. Because this message isn't random. You didn't find this by accident. And the person who just crossed your mind right now, they are not there without reason. There is someone in your life, or someone who keeps drifting into your thoughts unexpectedly, who feels intensely connected to you. Not casually, not lightly, not in a passing way, deeply, obsessively, quietly. They are crazy about you, but not in a dramatic or reckless way, in a controlled silence, in a way they have never allowed themselves to feel before. And yet this connection feels forbidden, not because love is missing, but because something stands in the way. And that forbidden nature means two very important things. Things that explain why the bond feels so powerful, why the distance exists, and why neither of you can fully let go. Let's begin. Hey everyone, welcome to Psych Lens. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the bell icon and select all, because every video can change your mindset. First, understand this truth. When a relationship feels forbidden, it does not mean it is weak. In fact, it often means the opposite. Forbidden connections are rarely shallow. They do not come from convenience. They do not come from boredom. They do not come from loneliness or passing attraction. They come from recognition. This person did not choose to feel this way about you. It happened slowly and then all at once. At first, you were just someone they noticed, then someone they respected, then someone they trusted. And then, without realizing how it happened, you became someone they could not stop thinking about. What makes it forbidden is not the absence of love. It is timing, circumstance, responsibility, fear, moral boundaries. And here is where the first meaning reveals itself. This person is fighting themselves every single day because of you. Not fighting you, not resisting you out of indifference, but battling what they feel. They wake up with your presence already in their mind and immediately remind themselves why they shouldn't be thinking of you. They replay conversations and then scold themselves for smiling. They imagine what it would feel like to be close to you and then shut the thought down because wanting you feels dangerous. Not dangerous to their heart, dangerous to the life they have built. For some, this means they are emotionally tied elsewhere. For others, there are family expectations, cultural rules, social pressures, or moral lines they were raised never to cross. Sometimes one of you is unavailable in a way that complicates everything. Sometimes the connection challenges everything they thought they were supposed to want. So instead of acting, they restrain. Instead of confessing, they retreat. Instead of reaching out, they watch silently. And here is the truth most people miss. Silence does not mean absence of feeling. Often it means overwhelming feeling. This person is not calm about you. They are consumed quietly. They do not speak because speaking would open a door they are afraid they won't be able to close. They do not act because action would force them to confront consequences they are not ready to face. They do not move closer because closeness would expose truths they have been avoiding, even from themselves. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist not only persists, but grows in size." That is exactly what is happening here. Every time they resist the urge to reach out, the feeling deepens. Every time they choose restraint, the bond tightens. Every time they deny what they feel, the connection compresses instead of disappearing. And compressed emotion does not fade. It intensifies. This explains the strange push and pull energy you feel. Why you sense them even when they are distant. Why you think of them at random moments without trying. Why your emotions shift without a clear explanation. You may feel their presence lingering even in silence. You may sense unfinished energy between you. That is because suppressed feelings do not vanish. They wait. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Right now, much of what binds you exists in the unconscious, unspoken, unadmitted, unresolved. And because it has not been brought into the light, it moves beneath the surface, shaping emotions, timing, and inner tension. This person carries you quietly, in their private thoughts, in moments of stillness, in the spaces between what they show the world and what they feel when no one is watching. They may appear composed, responsible, controlled, but inside there is a constant negotiation, a pulling back and leaning in, a desire followed by restraint, not because you are insignificant, but because you matter too much. They are afraid of disrupting lives, afraid of betraying values, afraid of opening something they cannot undo. And that internal struggle is exhausting. It is why the connection feels heavy at times, why it feels intense without contact, why distance does not bring relief. Carl Jung also said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. You have already reacted, both of you. Whether you realize it or not, something inside them has been altered by knowing you, and something inside you has shifted by feeling them. This is not imagination. This is not projection. This is not coincidence. This is a bond that exists beneath logic, and this is why time alone does not dissolve it, because it is not sustained by habit. It is sustained by meaning." Carl Jung wrote, "Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, there love is lacking." In this connection, power is not the goal. Control is not the desire. That is why it feels confusing. There is no manipulation here. No games, just two people affected by something they did not plan for and do not know how to place within the structure of their lives. As this unfolds, one truth becomes clear. You are not a distraction. You are not a mistake, and you are not replaceable. You are part of a story that has already begun moving both of you inward toward deeper awareness. And as this awareness grows, the meaning of this forbidden bond will continue to reveal itself, layer by layer, quietly, patiently, until the next truth is ready to surface. And as that truth settles in, something else becomes impossible to ignore. This connection does not behave like ordinary attraction. It does not weaken with distance. It does not dissolve with logic. It does not disappear simply because it is inconvenient. Instead, it follows you both quietly. You may notice that even when you are busy, even when life pulls your attention elsewhere, this person returns to your awareness without effort. Not because you are trying to remember them, but because something unresolved keeps knocking from beneath the surface. And the same is happening on their side. They may go days appearing unaffected. They may seem focused on work, family, routine, responsibility, but the mind has a way of circling back to what it cannot complete. They remember the way you made them feel understood without having to explain themselves. They remember the ease of conversation, the recognition, the strange familiarity. They remember moments that meant more than they should have. And that is exactly why they scare them. Because once you feel seen at that level, you cannot unfeel it. This is where most people misunderstand forbidden connections. They assume the distance exists because one person cares less. But often, the opposite is true. Distance is not always created by lack of feeling. Sometimes it is created by too much of it. This person knows that if they step closer, they may not be able to return to who they were before. They sense that something irreversible waits on the other side of honesty, and they are not yet ready to dismantle the life they have carefully assembled, even if that life no longer fully fits them. So they choose control over truth, structure over emotion, familiar discomfort over uncertain authenticity. But here is what that choice costs them. Every time they suppress what they feel, it does not disappear. It reorganizes itself inside them. It shows up as restlessness, as distraction, as emotional distance from people they are supposed to be present with. They may find themselves questioning relationships that once felt secure, wondering why something feels missing, asking themselves why they are no longer satisfied with answers that used to be enough. And they may not say your name out loud, but your presence becomes a silent comparison point. You represent a version of emotional truth they have not yet given themselves permission to live. This is why the connection feels unfinished, because it is not just about two people wanting each other. It is about two lives standing at the edge of transformation. You feel this too, even if you cannot fully explain it. You may notice that after meeting them, your standards quietly changed. What you tolerate feels different. What you desire feels clearer. What you once accepted now feels hollow. You may find yourself less willing to settle for emotional half-presence, less patient with connections that lack depth, more aware of what genuine resonance feels like. That awareness did not come from nowhere. It came from recognition. This is where the second layer of meaning begins to reveal itself. This connection is not only about longing, it is about awakening. Some relationships arrive to build a shared future. Others arrive to wake you up to your truth. This one carries the weight of the second, not because it cannot become more, but because its first purpose is internal. You met this person at a point in your life where something inside you was ready to be stirred, and they met you when they were quietly questioning the life they were living, even if they never admitted it out loud. That is why the pull feels so strong and so confusing at the same time. You are mirrors for each other. You reflect the parts they have suppressed. They reflect the parts of you that were waiting to be acknowledged. This kind of connection does not follow ordinary timelines. It does not rush. It does not announce itself clearly. It works slowly, internally, reshaping priorities, values, and emotional awareness. That is why even silence between you feels charged, because something is still happening beneath it. You may wonder why letting go feels impossible, why logic does not bring closure, why telling yourself nothing can happen does not free you. It is because the bond is not sustained by fantasy. It is sustained by truth that has not yet been lived, and truth once felt cannot be unfelt. You are not holding on to a person. You are holding on to an experience of emotional clarity that changed you, and so are they. This does not mean you should wait. It does not mean you should put your life on pause. It does not mean you should sacrifice your present for a possibility. It means you should understand what this connection is teaching you. It is showing you the level of depth your heart is capable of. It is revealing the kind of connection that nourishes you instead of drains you. It is reminding you that real feeling exists beyond convenience and fear. And it is doing the same for them, whether they admit it or not. What happens next is not something you can force. It cannot be rushed by desire. It cannot be manipulated by silence or pursuit. Because this kind of bond unfolds only when honesty becomes stronger than fear. Until then, it exists in an in-between space, not gone, not fully here, alive in thought, alive in feeling, alive in the quiet moments where truth whispers instead of shouts. And as time moves forward, the pressure between who they are and who they are becoming will continue to grow. The same is true for you. Eventually, something must shift, because awakened awareness does not stay dormant forever. And when it does shift, it will not come from longing. It will come from readiness. And readiness does not arrive loudly. It does not announce itself with dramatic gestures or sudden confessions. It arrives quietly through discomfort, through the growing realization that something inside no longer fits the shape of the life being lived. For them, this often shows up as a subtle fracture. They begin to notice that the roles they play feel heavier than before. That obligations they once accepted without question now feel restrictive. That emotional routines feel empty, even when everything looks fine from the outside. And you are not the cause of this fracture. You are the contrast that revealed it. You did not disrupt their life. You illuminated the parts of it that were already misaligned. That is why this connection feels dangerous to them. Not because it threatens stability, but because it threatens illusion. Illusions are comfortable. Truth is not. Truth demands responsibility. Truth demands courage. Truth demands that a person look honestly at what they feel and decide whether they are willing to live accordingly. And many people are not ready for that decision when the feeling first arrives, so they delay. They rationalize. They tell themselves it is a phase. They tell themselves it is imagination. They tell themselves it will pass if they ignore it long enough. But deep connections do not dissolve through neglect. They transform into pressure. This is why you may sense waves of closeness followed by distance, moments where they seem emotionally present, then suddenly withdrawn. Times when you feel strongly connected without a single word being exchanged. That inconsistency is not confusion about you. It is conflict within them. They are standing between who they have been and who they are becoming. And you represent the threshold. On your side, something equally important is happening. You are learning discernment. You are beginning to understand the difference between intensity and truth, between chemistry and alignment, between attention and recognition. This connection did not arrive to consume you. It arrived to clarify you. You may notice that you no longer crave surface level affection the way you once did. You may feel less interested in chasing validation, less willing to shrink yourself to fit someone else's comfort. That is not coincidence. That is growth. This bond is teaching you self-respect without preaching it. It is showing you what it feels like to be met emotionally, even if incompletely. And once you have felt that, you cannot pretend not to know the difference anymore. This is why the connection feels sacred. Sacred does not mean perfect. It does not mean easy. It does not mean guaranteed. It means meaningful beyond outcome. Whether this relationship becomes something tangible or remains unfinished, it has already fulfilled part of its purpose. It has expanded your emotional awareness. It has sharpened your intuition. It has clarified what matters to you in love and connection. And it has done the same for them. That is why neither of you can simply erase it, because it is woven into who you are becoming. You may wonder why the timing feels so wrong, why the connection arrived when it could not be easily lived. But timing is rarely about punishment. Often it is about preparation. Sometimes two people meet not to be together immediately, but to be changed separately first. Because without that internal change, even the most powerful connection can collapse under the weight of unexamined fear and unresolved patterns. Right now, both of you are being asked to confront something deeper than desire. You are being asked to confront truth. For them, the question is whether they are willing to live honestly, even when honesty carries consequences. For you, the question is whether you are willing to honor yourself, even when waiting feels tempting. This is why patience matters here. Not patience rooted in hope or expectation, but patience rooted in self-trust. You are not meant to put your life on hold. You are not meant to remain suspended in longing. You are meant to continue growing, choosing, living. If this connection is meant to evolve, it will do so when both of you are capable of meeting each other without hiding. Not half-present, not restrained, not divided, fully. And if it does not evolve into a shared path, its impact will still remain, because it has already redirected your inner compass. That is not loss. That is initiation. Many people go through life never experiencing a connection that truly wakes them up. They stay asleep in relationships that feel safe but empty. They settle for comfort instead of truth. You did not. You encountered something real enough to disrupt patterns, to expose fear, to demand growth. That alone sets this bond apart. As time moves forward, clarity will continue to emerge. Not through force, not through waiting, but through lived honesty. People either rise to the truth they feel or retreat further into what feels safe. Both paths reveal answers, and you will not need to chase those answers. They will show themselves through behavior, choices, and time. Until then, trust what this connection has already given you. Not longing, but awareness. And awareness once gained never leaves you the same. And as awareness deepens, something subtle but irreversible begins to happen. You stop trying to define the connection. You stop asking it to explain itself. And instead you start listening to what it is awakening inside you. This is where power quietly returns to you. Because the most dangerous thing about a forbidden connection is not longing. It is forgetting yourself while trying to understand it. And you are no longer doing that. You are beginning to notice how grounded you feel when you choose yourself. How calm returns when you stop scanning for signs. How clarity grows when you stop interpreting silence and start honoring your own inner stability. That shift matters more than you realize, because while this connection once pulled you inward with intensity, it is now teaching you something deeper: self-sovereignty. You are learning that real connection does not require self-abandonment. That love does not ask you to wait in confusion. That depth does not demand suffering as proof. And this lesson is essential, whether the path with this person continues or not. On their side, the tension continues to build, because while you are integrating the lesson consciously, they are still negotiating it internally. They feel the contrast more sharply now. Between who they are in the world and who they are when they think of you. Between the version of themselves that performs responsibility and the version that feels alive in truth. That contrast becomes impossible to ignore forever. People can avoid many things. They can avoid conversations. They can avoid decisions. They can avoid confrontation, but they cannot avoid themselves indefinitely. Eventually something cracks. Not dramatically, not explosively, quietly. They begin to ask questions they once avoided. Why am I restless? Why do I feel disconnected from the life I chose? Why does something feel unfinished? And even if they never say your name out loud, it echoes inside those questions. This is where many forbidden connections either transform or dissolve. Because awareness demands choice, and choice demands courage. Some people rise to that moment. They choose honesty over appearance. They choose truth over comfort. They choose growth over fear. Others retreat. They double down on routine. They reinforce the walls they built. They convince themselves that numbness is stability. Both choices reveal the truth, not through words, but through action. And this is where you must remain anchored in yourself, because it is not your role to rescue someone from their fear. It is not your responsibility to wait for someone else's awakening. It is not your task to carry emotional weight that is not being shared. Your task is to remain aligned with your own truth, to stay open without being available to confusion, to stay compassionate without betraying your own needs, to stay receptive without shrinking your boundaries. This is a delicate balance, but you are capable of it now, because this connection has already changed you. You no longer romanticize potential at the expense of reality. You no longer mistake emotional intensity for emotional readiness. You no longer confuse silence with mystery. You see more clearly. And clarity is a form of freedom. This is why, paradoxically, the bond feels less consuming now. Even though it remains meaningful, it no longer owns you. It informs you. You can hold it without clinging, feel it without losing yourself, acknowledge it without building your life around it. That is emotional maturity. And that maturity is what allows the next phase to reveal itself, whatever form it takes. If this connection is meant to become lived, shared, tangible love, it will require something very specific. Mutual courage, not longing, not chemistry, not history, courage. The courage to speak plainly, the courage to disrupt what no longer aligns, the courage to take responsibility for one's truth. Without that, even the deepest connection cannot survive in the real world. It will remain suspended, powerful but incomplete, and you are no longer afraid of that incompleteness, because you understand now that meaning does not depend on outcome, that transformation does not require permanence, that some connections are chapters, not conclusions. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This connection has pulled both of you closer to that privilege. Whether they fully step into it or not is their journey. Whether you continue walking forward with integrity is yours. And you are choosing forward motion. You are choosing presence. You are choosing growth. You are choosing a life that responds to truth instead of fear. That does not mean you close your heart. It means you open it with discernment. You remain open to love that meets you fully, to connection that does not require secrecy, to intimacy that does not live in fragments. And here is the quiet truth. When you stop chasing clarity, clarity comes. When you stop waiting for answers, answers arrive through behavior. When you stop holding space for potential, reality reveals itself. You are no longer stuck in the in-between. You are standing firmly within yourself. And from that place, whatever happens next will not diminish you. It will either join you in truth or release you into something more aligned. Either way, you are not losing. You are becoming. And that is what this connection was always meant to initiate. And now we arrive at the quiet ending that is not really an ending at all, because some connections do not conclude with closure. They conclude with truth. This is where everything you have felt finally settles into understanding. You realize that this bond was never meant to trap you in longing. It was meant to refine you. It was meant to teach you the difference between attachment and alignment, between desire and destiny, between intensity that consumes and depth that strengthens. You see now that what made this connection feel forbidden was never just external circumstance. It was the gap between readiness and awareness. Two people met at the level of the soul, but not yet at the level of life. And that distinction matters. Because soul recognition is powerful, but it is not sufficient on its own. Life demands integration, choice, action. And this is where many people become confused. They think that because a connection feels profound, it must be pursued at all costs. But depth without grounding can become suffering. And meaning without embodiment can become longing. You are no longer confused by that. You understand that real love does not live only in imagination. It does not survive only in silence. It does not thrive only in restraint. Real love requires presence, consistency, responsibility, and if those elements are missing, it does not negate the connection. It simply defines its role. Some connections are bridges. They take you from who you were to who you are becoming. They are not destinations. They are passages. This one has already served that function. It showed you what emotional recognition feels like. It reminded you of your capacity for depth. It sharpened your intuition. It raised your standards. It forced you to confront patience, self-respect, and discernment all at once. And that is not a small gift. You no longer need to ask why this happened. You no longer need to interpret every silence. You no longer need to assign meaning to every distance, because the meaning is already clear. This connection entered your life to awaken truth, not to confuse you, not to diminish you, not to keep you waiting. It arrived to show you what is possible when two people meet beyond masks. What happens next is no longer something you need to control. If this person chooses courage, you will know, not through hints, not through longing, but through action. If they do not, you will also know, because inaction is still an answer, and you are finally at peace with that. You understand that waiting is only painful when it is rooted in fear, but releasing expectation is liberating when it is rooted in self-trust. You are no longer suspended between hope and doubt. You are grounded in yourself. That grounding changes everything. From this place, you do not close your heart. You open it more wisely. You allow love to approach you without secrecy, without fragmentation, without conditions that require you to disappear. You are open to a connection that meets you in daylight, not only in thought, in presence, not only in potential. And here is the truth that brings this full circle. If this bond ever returns in a tangible way, it will not feel confusing. It will feel clear. It will not live in silence. It will live in choice. It will not ask you to wait. It will ask you to walk forward together. Until then, you are not missing anything. You are whole. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." This connection did not define you. Your response to it did. You chose growth over obsession, awareness over fantasy, integrity over self-abandonment. That choice matters more than any outcome. Because from this point forward, you do not chase depth. You recognize it. You do not cling to meaning. You embody it. You do not fear endings that do not look like beginnings. Because you understand that some endings are initiations, and whether this person ever steps fully into truth or remains a chapter that changed you quietly, you walk forward stronger, clearer, more aligned. You are no longer asking, "What is this?" You are living the answer. And that answer is simple. You are becoming someone who chooses love that can stand in reality. Someone who honors depth without sacrificing self. Someone who trusts timing without surrendering power. This connection did not come to break you. It came to reveal you. And now you carry that revelation forward. Calm, whole, unafraid. If you felt seen by this message, trust that it reached you at the right moment. And remember this, nothing that truly changes you is ever meaningless. If this message spoke directly to your heart, comment the word "forbidden" below. Not for me, for yourself, as a signal that you're choosing clarity over confusion. Subscribe if you're ready for deeper truth about love, connection, and emotional awakening. And share this video with someone who feels a connection they can't explain. It may be exactly what they need to hear right now.